I propose to take questions 12 and 13 together. My department is currently finalising revised dog breeding establishment guidelines, taking account of the submissions received during the public consultation process, a summary report of which has been published on the department's website. In recent months, officials in my department have been engaging with members of the original working group and with other stakeholders to ensure that the revised guidelines reflect, where appropriate, the views received during the consultation period. I expect to have the revised guidelines ready for my approval to publish later this month, and that is a commitment that I gave in February in all responses. I want to see, and I think we all do, the highest standards achieved by dog breeding establishments in Ireland, and will oversee the progression of any necessary legislative changes required in this area. My immediate priority is to finish work in relation to revising the guidelines. Amendments to the relevant legislation, if necessary, will be progressed subsequently. My department is currently identifying any legislative amendments that may be required. Broader issues relating to enforcement and licence conditions were also raised in the course of the public consultation. I have asked my officials to consider whether further measures are required in these areas. In this context, it is important to bear in mind that the enforcement of animal welfare standards for all animals, including dogs, is a matter for the Minister of Agriculture, Food and Marine under the Animal Health and Welfare Acts. Both departments work closely with each other to ensure a coordinated approach is taken in this area.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I think there is an urgency about these guidelines because we know the situation with the puppy farms and the dreadful reputation that Ireland has as the puppy farm capital of Europe. We know about the poor conditions in those farms. We know about the lack of enforcement. Myself and Deputy Daly, we have constant calls to our office from individuals, from organisations, from animal welfare groups about the condition. I actually had a look at Dundee this morning. There are over 2,000 ads selling puppies, and that doesn't take into account the number of puppies that are available on each one of those ads. We know the appalling conditions in some of those. We know about the lack of enforcement. So they're all of the issues that are going to have to be taken on board. And, you know, it's the rescue communities who have to take up the pieces. And I know they're being funded, but not to the same extent. And these puppy farms, they are just a profit-making, churning out puppies all of the time. And we see the seizures that are being made by the customs practically every week. A couple of puppies just last week. And then those puppies have to be rehoused, they have to be retrained, and it's the animal welfare groups that are taking that into account. I do hope that what you said in your reply will actually see much, much better conditions and also enforcement.
Thank you very much, Deputy Minister.
Yeah, thank you, and I wholeheartedly agree. We all recognise the important issues in relation to puppy welfare, and you know, there has been an amount of submissions to the public consultation, and as I said, I expect to be able to publish the revised guidelines by the end of this month. I think we can also, however, be positive on some of the changes that have been made in terms of the welfare acts, in terms of microchipping, in terms of the trends under the dog control statistics. The total number of dogs euthanised in local authority pounds was 996 in 2017 as opposed to over 1,600 in 2016, and this continues the year-on-year annual trend of decline in the number of dogs being euthanised, down from a high of just over 21,000, would you believe, in 2002. So there is positivity in the area as well, notwithstanding the issues that have arisen. I'd also like to put on record that at the end of December 2016, there were 248 registered DBs with local authorities, and there were 275 inspections took place on those dog breeding establishments, and the total number on register at the end of December 2017 with local authorities are 258 dog breeding establishments.
The problem with inspections is that they are by appointment. So therefore the dog breeding establishment know when they are coming. So there needs to be on-the-spot appointments. If there's a fault found and a notice is given to improve that situation, you know, the enforcement is just not strong enough. There's two other aspects. One is to do with revenue. When you look at the number of dog breeding establishments in Ireland and the extent of the revenue, and I've been trying to pursue that with the Minister on that. There's also an environmental issue. When you look at puppy farms with huge numbers, hundreds of dogs being bred, and you look at the dog poop and what exactly is happening, and there is a serious environmental issue on that as well. And the last point I would make, a previous topical issue that I had with the Minister agreed that the scope of the existing guidelines need to be enhanced because they are benign and they do represent a minimal standard that is no longer acceptable. So we do need to move much more radically in this. And the last point I would make is the whole issue of animals. It falls between three departments. There's yourselves, there's agriculture, and there's also culture. And, you know, when it falls between three departments, the cracks are there and the abuses are taking place. And there's also a question as to whether puppy farms should be in existence at all, because puppies are not livestock and they're not bred for slaughter or for food production. So I do hope that the guidelines will be much, much more robust and with, you know, really severe enforcement aspects.
Minister, to conclude.
Yeah, absolutely. The consultation was quite robust, and there was a number, as I said, of submissions, and we would expect to be able to take those on board. I note your concerns in relation to this being cross-departmental, and I know some of the submissions that were received made that point and were of the view that perhaps this area should be entirely within the Department of Agriculture, where the vets have a role. And clearly, obviously, the local authorities, which falls under a separate department as well, have the ultimate responsibility in relation to enforcement. But there is good collaboration between the departments, between the vets within agriculture and with our department and the local authorities as well. And you know, my officials have been engaged with the relevant stakeholders, such as the local authorities, the vets under the auspices of the CCMA, the ISPCA, the Dog Trust, in relation to revising these draft documents. You're right, of course, in relation to the issues on buy and sell or done deal or whatever. The issues in relation to revenue would be something that I think you can take up with the Minister of Finance, but it is a valid point.